Hi guys, welcome to CANRUSH. My name is Eva and this is my husband John. I'm from Russia. Sorry.
I said hi.
I thought you said I. I'm from Russia and so English is not my native language, and my husband is from Canada.
Yeah, so some people saw the previous video. If you're watching this video, there's a good chance that you've seen the video where my beard is getting super long while we travel around the world, or when we shaved it off. If you haven't, check it out. Link will be in the description. But so many of you watched this video. I mean, at the time that we're filming this, the video of the time lapse of my beard growing has, I think, over 16 million views. That is insane. You know, you see these viral videos where you never think that you'll make one of them. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching, and for over 50,000 of you that have already subscribed. Thank you so much. We've got a lot of ideas for videos that we'd like to film. We already have a channel in Russian, and as we did this trip, we filmed like every day pretty much. We have over 300 videos on that channel, and there's already 50,000 subscribers there too. And so that's why in the video that I posted where I'm shaving the beard, you can hear me speaking Russian because it was originally for the Russian channel, but now there's so many of you that speak English, we decided to share it with you, and we really want to grow this English channel because I know a lot of you are looking forward to new videos. Just to make it clear, I am not Russian. I've been studying Russian for about 8 years, and Eva helps me a lot. So yeah, I speak Russian a lot. We speak Russian almost all the time together, but my native language is English. And the first video that we decided to start with was this one because there are thousands and thousands of comments of people saying, you guys are rich, you know, to be able to travel that much. Or people asking, how much money did you spend on this trip? How much money do I need if I want to do a trip like that? So we're going to try to answer some of those questions. So I'm just going to come right out and answer the question, are we rich? No. I would say, I mean, at least financially, we're not rich. We're rich in, I don't know, memories, and our relationship is rich, you could say, and things like that. But yeah, I wouldn't say that we have a lot of money. We didn't have a lot of money when we started the trip or during the trip.
We got married 8 months before we started this trip, and John moved here to Moscow.
We're in Moscow, Russia now, by the way. I don't think we mentioned that. That's where we're living at the moment.
So I was working as a doctor, and John was working as an English teacher here in Moscow.
So we worked for 8 months to try to save money. We should probably say right away that some of you hear the word doctor and you think of American salaries. Doctors here in Russia do not make tens of thousands of dollars a month. Just so you get a better picture, $1,000 to $1,500 a month is a pretty good salary for a doctor here in Moscow. So that's something like $12,000 to $18,000 per year, an annual salary after taxes for doctors. So I mean, it's not like nothing, but it's not an American doctor's salary for sure. So during these 8 months before the trip, we worked a lot, and we tried to save money. Luckily, we didn't have to pay rent because we live with Eva's mom here in Moscow. And, you know, we didn't go out to eat a lot. We didn't buy expensive things. And we were able to save about 50% of what we made. So after 8 months of working and saving, and some help from our friends and family, we had about $12,000 when we started this trip. It's really complicated because some of the money was in Canadian dollars, some was in American, some was in Russian rubles. So at that time, with the exchange rates at that time, it was about $12,000.
So at the beginning, we had this plan that we want to travel around the world, but we didn't know how much money do we need, and we were reading and watching lots of different other travelers and learning from their experience, and everybody was telling like different things. Like, you need $20,000 to travel like this, you need $100,000 to travel like this, or you need $1 per day to travel like this. So we didn't know at all how much do we need. So we just took everything what we had and we started.
Yeah, we didn't want to put it off any longer. We left September 2nd, and if anybody knows anything about Russia, you're getting pretty close to winter, you know, and we didn't want to take heavy winter clothes, so we thought we don't want to wait out the whole winter. Let's go now. Even though, actually, I forgot. In my mind, I had in my mind we should have $20,000. That'll be a good, safe amount to do a trip around the world. But we didn't.
So, because we didn't know how much money did we need, we tried to spend as little as possible. And we decided that we will try to hitchhike. And that's how we pretty much traveled everywhere. And we used Couchsurfing. It's a website of worldwide hospitality where you can find pretty much in each city you can find a place, a family, a house where people will be very happy to have you in their house. I don't know how to explain. Like
to host you, to let you stay with them for free. That's one of the main rule of the site is that it's free. So you can either stay at other people's places for free, or vice versa. Of course, you can have other people stay with you. And get to know travelers, learn languages and things like that. So almost all the time we did that. I mean, we actually in 2.5 years of traveling around the world, we only paid for accommodations 11 times. We knew from the beginning that these things that Eva mentioned, transportation to get somewhere, and get back, and accommodations are usually some of the most expensive things when you're traveling. If we flew to each of these countries and came back every time, we would have spent, tens of thousands of dollars, to go from Moscow to China to Moscow to Vietnam to Moscow, come back every time. But since, when you're already in China, Vietnam's pretty close, right? And then when you're in Vietnam, Cambodia's close. And that's how this crazy idea of traveling around the world, grew in our minds and ended up becoming what it is. So when we started, it's not that we didn't have any confidence, but we were completely unsure that we would be able to do what we set out to do. We thought, maybe we'll just make it to Africa and we'll have to, get a job somewhere in Kenya and save money to fly to the next place or whatever. But it did work out. And as you could see from that video, I'd like to say right away that we didn't have any source of income really during the trip. We did make a little bit of money from YouTube. YouTube in Russian pays a little bit less than in English. So, and we didn't have that many views. So we were making maybe like $100, $200, maximum $300 one month, which considering how much we spent was a good amount. It was significant, but it wasn't like our goal. We weren't trying to make money. And a few times I did some translations from Russian to English. And made a bit of money, but I wasn't looking for that work. It was just when people contacted me. We decided as long as we have enough money to return back home, like to Moscow or to Canada, we are okay. We are fine. So even if the money is getting lower, as long as, we have enough money to go home, then it's fine. If we run out of money, then we'll just go home. Yeah. Yeah. So from the first day, we decided that it's okay if our worldwide tour will be for 1 month or 1 day or 2 months. It will be okay. A little bit sad, but still okay. So we didn't expect that, our main goal we didn't expect that we will reach our main goal. And our main goal was to go to Canada. Yeah, the original goal was to go from Moscow, Russia to Canada in a very long route. You can see the map here. I've showed it before, and we'll talk more about it in the future. And during the trip, to keep track of expenses, to make sure that we're not spending too much, and figure out how long the money will last, we kept a very, very detailed record. I used Google Sheets, so I didn't have to worry about losing the files. They were always accessible on the internet. And we literally wrote down every single expense. You'll see it right now, but down to the cent as much as we could, with all the different currency conversions and stuff, so that, we always knew how much money we had and where it was going. Before I get into the actual expenses, I think I should just show you briefly a map of what we did, because you could see it at the end of the video where my beard was growing, but maybe it wasn't that clear. So just in 30 seconds, we started in Moscow September 2nd, 2015, and we hitchhiked all the way through here, through China, through Southeast Asia, India to the south of India, all hitchhiking. Then we flew from India to Alexandria, Egypt, and from there we hitchhiked through 8 countries in Africa, and then we flew to Brazil through Angola, so to Sao Paulo and then to the northeast of Brazil. Originally, we wanted to fly to Ecuador and go the other way around, but it was really expensive, so we got a good deal for a flight. And then we hitchhiked down the coast of Brazil, and what you can see here. This is what we did through South America. There is land connecting Colombia and Panama, but there's no road. So we flew from Bogota to Panama City and hitchhiked through South America, through Mexico, and we hitchhiked all the way to Arizona, to Phoenix, Arizona, and that's where we bought a car. Again, long story, bought a car, it broke down, sold it, bought another car, we got to Florida, and it broke down, we sold it, and started renting cars. But yeah, and then this is what we did, buy a car through the United States and Canada. We crossed all of Canada, obviously, by car. We went here up along the coast of New Brunswick and Quebec. There's Gaspé here, Gaspésie, I think they call it. And yeah, this is actually, just so you know, this is where my family is from. This small town in Truro, that's where my parents live in Nova Scotia, Canada. And at the end, we flew from Nova Scotia to Toronto, and then around like the North Pole over here to Beijing, and then to a city called Vladivostok in Russia, right here. And then we made our way back through Russia. This was actually in the winter. So it was February, March. We went through Russia by train, and we stopped in like 16 cities. And this one here, we went up north, and we met with our subscribers, because now we have a bunch of subscribers in Russia. And we finally got back to Moscow on February 28th. 2018, this year. So let's take a look at the spreadsheet itself, the money that we spent. I know that a lot of you don't understand Russian. I'm just going to point out a few things. This is what the spreadsheet looks like. We made a sheet like this for every country. So you can obviously see the dates. I'm sure you can recognize dates. And then what we spent the money on, how much we spent, and we had a bunch of categories. And you'll see the categories in a second. And each time we could see how much we spend in each category, the percentage of the spending, and in each country I would write the exchange rate up top here. This was from rubles to US dollars, and so we could sort of keep track of dollars. So this is Russia, then we have Mongolia, China, Vietnam, and you can see this is the Vietnam dong to Russian rubles, and this is the Vietnam dong to US dollars. And then we also, like for example, if you look here at Myanmar, this is Myanmar, you can see that there are other numbers here. We didn't write all of our expenses in our everyday expenses. Like this was sort of the left column was reserved for everyday things. And this is big expenses, like the visa to India cost $84 for both of us. We paid $100 for permission to cross the border from Myanmar to India. I don't even think that's possible the way we did it at this right now. The rules keep changing. But just so that they were sort of separate, because we had in our mind, after we crossed Russia, actually, we spent about a month crossing Russia, and we spent $142. If I remember correctly, it worked out to be about, here it is, $4.60 per day. And we thought, well, if we could do that in Russia, then maybe we can do that in China, in Mongolia. And so we had this idea in our mind that for daily expenses, we would try to spend no more than $5 per day. In some countries that worked, in some countries it didn't. Actually, I can show you that right now. These are all the countries. There's 33 of them, so there was a lot. This was how much we spent before Brazil, before we got to Brazil. And because this is so long, I moved on to another sheet. And you can see each country is up here on the top, and the categories are on the left. So you can see how much we spent in each category in each country. And down below, I also wrote how many days we were in each country. So this was Brazil at $5.05 per day. And again, this is not counting the flights and the visas. But yeah, you can see here that most countries, this first category is for the first half of the trip until Brazil. I just made a total. Because that's on another sheet. And yeah, 450, 420 Ecuador, 450 for Colombia. There's nowhere here that we spent that much more. Even in the United States, not counting again the expenses on the cars that we spent a lot on, it was $11.29 in the United States per day. So I will just move on to something that's actually in English. There's one other thing here. This is gas. When we were in the United States, we would write down how much we spent and how much gas, and then sometimes we even kept track of how many miles that we'd driven, so we could get the miles per gallon. But I gave up on that after a while because I kept forgetting to look at the odometer, and yeah. Anyway, here we go. This will now be in English. Ta-da! So, these are all the categories, and this is what we spent. This is what you've been waiting for. We spent $13,431.97. Of course, that's almost exact. There's some money that we lost in conversion, with all the different exchange rates, and the banks taking some money for this and that, for ATM fees. We didn't account for all of that, but yeah, approximately this number right here. And you can see that I organized this list of expenses by category. So the cars, that includes like buying the cars, fixing them up, doing insurance, registration, all those things. $3,221. That's what we spent. And that was all in the United States. So you got to keep in mind that we traveled around the world, right? And the U.S. was the second last country before we got to Canada, to my home. So we knew how much money we had left. And we knew how much time we had left, so we spent quite a bit more there, I must say. And this also includes renting the cars. Again, another story, but maybe I'll tell you about it later. On flights, I feel like this is a pretty good number. $2,331 with 4 flights. You can rewind and watch again where we flew, but I mean, it's really like $1,100 and I don't know, what is it, $65 per person to travel around the world. Even around the world trip tickets cost more than that, I think. So yeah, considering that we flew from Africa to South America and from North America to Europe included in that, awesome. Maybe we can talk a little bit about finding cheap flights, although it's mostly just a matter of trial and error, just looking and trying to get a good deal. Again, with this the gas right here, that is obviously all in the U.S., and that was when we were driving. And if you don't count the transportation, then the biggest expense was on groceries. Where we stayed with local people, luckily they had kitchens, and most of the time, honestly, they would feed us, even though that wasn't required. But when we were on our own, we would buy food at the local grocery store and cook ourselves, and of course, we saved a lot of money on that. And then on visas, if you're not familiar, sometimes you can't just go to every country with your passport. Sometimes you need special permission to go to a country. So that's called a visa. They just put like a stamp or a sticker in your passport. We spent $1,189 on that. And I'll just point out that doesn't include a visa to the U.S. or to Canada for Eva because she already had one before. And it doesn't include my visa to come back to Russia because I just didn't count that. So, yeah. And then restaurants, honestly, I think about a quarter of this amount was spent in the U.S. and mostly at McDonald's. But yeah, in 2 years of travel, that's not a really big amount because that's mostly actually street food. Like if we went and got a hot dog or something on the street, we would put that in the restaurant category. And yeah, transportation. Most of this number is actually when we went back to Russia at the end of the trip. I mentioned that we traveled by train, so most of that number is actually traveling by train. Yeah, here you can see this is Russia and transportation $453. So about half of that was all in Russia. And the rest was mostly would be transportation inside the city because we only ever paid, other than the cars and those trains in Russia, we only ever paid once, I think, for a bus, like between cities. I mean, of course, inside big cities, it's not really practical sometimes to walk everywhere. But and one time we paid for the ferry. We went from Uruguay to Buenos Aires in Argentina by ferry. And then we have other. $407. Most of that amount is a fine for hitchhiking that we got on our last day of hitchhiking in our trip around the world in Arizona. There's a video about it on our channel. You can check that out. And gifts, different gifts to different people. Cell phone service. Most of that, again, was in the United States. We had a SIM card there that was $60 a month for unlimited, and we were there for, I think, almost 4 months. Electronics here, that just random things like a charger for a laptop, fixing a laptop, or we had a laptop break, and we lost the phone in China, so we bought another one, which ended up being really not a good phone. Yeah, entertainment, yeah, everything else is just a little bit here and there. And that's our grand total. You may notice that this number, days of traveling, 752 days. In the video with my beard growing, it says 911 days. It was 911 days from the day that we left left Moscow to the day that we returned to Moscow. But we took out of these numbers the time that we spent in Canada, because when we were in Canada, when we finally got back to my home where my parents live, we spent 5 months there, just resting. We spent Christmas and New Year's there, and then we continued our trip. So the expenses that we had there, we didn't count, so we took that out of our of the total number of days, and we got a total of $17.86 for the whole trip. But I would like to point out that, again, if you add the cars that we have here and the gas expenses, that's $4,574. So if you took that out of the total, it'd be $8,857. I truly believe that we could have done the trip without those cars, but like we could have hitchhiked through the U.S. I know it's possible, but we decided to try something different, so it ended up being more expensive. But theoretically, if we didn't travel by car, in our own cars in the U.S. And Canada, then it would have been $11.78. And I've made a couple of graphs here. This is all the expenses, where you can see the cars were 24% and gas right here is 10%. So 34% of all that we spent was on cars and gas in the United States of a 2-year trip around the world. But I like to look at this theoretical graph of what we could have spent. If we just take out the cars and the gas, we have here 26.3% was flights, and then 19.6%, almost 20%, was groceries, and then restaurants, we can stick that in there too, 9.5%. So we're talking about 30% of what we spent was on food, and then visas is 13.4%. Yeah, and then everything else is just a little bit here and there. So that's what we spent. And again, here's the total, $13,431.97 for a trip of 2.5 years around the world. I think for most people, the numbers that I just showed are probably pretty low, considering how much we did, how much we saw. We ourselves were amazed that we were able to travel on so little. I remember, for example, when we got to the U.S., after 1 year and 7 months, we had spent $5,700, I believe. And that was just like mind-blowing that could happen, I guess that's about 31 countries. That's crazy. 30 countries, 31 countries. But to answer the question that many of you have asked, and a lot of people have written me personal messages, sorry, it's hard to answer all of them because there's a lot of you now. How much money do you need to do a trip like this? I don't know. I really don't know. You can never have too much, probably. You could always think, I should have more. But in our case, we decided that it was worth it for us to sacrifice a little bit of comfort at times to be able to have these experiences. Whereas other people, they might feel like they always need to be in a hotel that costs at least $15 or $20 a night, or even $50, and then you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars. But when you're willing to be flexible and look for other options, then you can travel pretty cheap. Another thing to keep in mind is that you don't know what people you're going to meet, and in so many cases, people helped us so much. We never asked for food or for money, but in so many places, people helped us so much, and they would feed us, they make us these delicious meals, and they would, refuse any money or even help sometimes. There was times where we couldn't spend money, like the first month in India was a very extreme example where we literally spent about $40 in 1 month in India because the people were always with us. They were just like a mother hen with their chicks. They just never let us go. Even when we asked, like, we need to go and buy some personal things, they would come with us and they wouldn't even let us pay. So we spent like $40 on like a SIM card and I don't know, like some chips and random stuff, just like stuff that we don't even really need. The people were so nice. And so, if we go back to India, there's no guarantee that would happen again. Maybe we'd spend $0, or maybe we'd spend $200 or $300. So again, that's another factor that you just can't know in advance, but you just have to go for it and see what happens. You really need to be flexible. During this trip, we, like I said, I'll just repeat, we didn't know if it would work out. but it did. And now that's normal for us because it's like a part of our reality that we traveled around the world. It was an amazing experience. But I remember at the beginning when somebody told us they went from Moscow to Hong Kong, we were like, whoa, that's crazy, you know? And now that seems like a small piece for us. And, you know, we planned basically, we had the general idea in our mind, but as we went along, we were planning no more than usually a week, maximum 2 weeks in advance. And then we just had some other dates in mind, like we'd buy a ticket, you know, 2 months in advance of a flight. Plane tickets, and we'd kind of move in that direction, but we didn't know which cities we'd go to, and etc. So, if you want to do a trip like this, I want to tell you that you can. It's very possible. It's tiring. Maybe 2.5 years is a little bit much, but it's amazing. And don't put it off. You know, life. We never know how long we're going to live, and if that's what you want to do, then do it. Before we finish, we should say another question people ask a lot in the comments is, how did you just leave your job for 2.5, 3 years? Well, I mean, we just left, you know, you have to have priorities. You know, people have written in the comments like, oh, you know, I couldn't do that because of this and that, or I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't want to sleep on somebody's floor or on somebody's couch. Okay, that's okay. You have different priorities, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it. If you want to do it, if that is your priority, then you can do it. You definitely can do it. And I mean, we came back, and it's not been hard to find work again. Like Eva, for example, is not working right now, but I know that they wanted you to come back, you know. So when you go to an employer, like when we tell anybody about this trip around the world, but when you go to an employer, you can even put it on your resume. I traveled around the world for 2.5 years. You know, here's a video of my long beard. That's cool, and that attracts attention. And if you want to do something, follow your dreams, and just like do something you're passionate about, that you've dreamed about, then other people will see that, they will respect that, and I believe that you will probably find better jobs when you come back. So it's a matter of priorities. Don't get it in your mind that I can't do something because I'm stuck here. You shouldn't be a slave. You know, you shouldn't be like a prisoner, or what do you call that? A hostage at your job. So, do you agree with anything?
Yeah, completely.
Sorry, I'm talking a lot.
But you know what? I should mention that even with this like small budget, we didn't spend too much time suffering.
Yeah.
I should say we didn't suffer, I think, at all, almost.
Yeah, it's not like we were just always on the street, like eating rice or something.
I mean, sometimes we slept on the floor, but most of the time we were sleeping in people's houses, in their rooms, and I mean, it was wonderful.
Most of the time it was relatively comfortable, but everybody's like requirements are different, I guess, you know. So there were times where we stood for an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours on the street, like along the road, hitchhiking in like 43 degrees Celsius heat, just waiting for cars, or 49 was at one point in Sudan. But for us, that was worth it. We always just reminded ourselves, like, this is an amazing experience that, you know, we probably wouldn't be able to get any other way anytime soon. You know, it would take us much longer to save a lot more money. So we've talked a lot. I talked a lot more than you. Sorry, babe.
No, it's okay. I'm very happy about this fact.
We want to make more videos for you. We want to get to know you. We want you to get us to know. We want you to get to know us more. So please write your comments. Write what kind of videos you'd like to see on this channel. You know, we have 300 videos in Russian about the trip. So we're trying to think about how we can maybe like go back and tell you a bit more about the trip in detail if you're interested. Maybe just sort of like narrate and show some pictures from the trip, because at this point, it's probably not realistic for us to like do subtitles for the whole hundreds of videos. Yeah, let us know what you think, what questions you have, and we'll have more videos ready for you soon. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you again in the very, very near future. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Come on.
Because we didn't know how much money do we need, we tried to spend as little as possible.
Yeah.
Ладно, еще раз скажу, as much as little as possible. So because we didn't know how much money do we need, we tried to spend as much as possible.
As little as possible.
We tried to spend as little
as possible.
as little as possible. Okay.
I used Google Spreadsheet, so I didn't have to worry about. Bless you.